Good morning. That is, if you're here with us live, and welcome if you're watching this later, a recording of it. I offer everybody a virtual welcome. So here's a question. How long has it been since you've actually been here at UUCS? Since we can't come here in person right now, how long has it been since you've actually walked into this building? Probably a long time for a lot of you. So it's our spiritual home, and it's still here. And some members who have been here recently to create their prayer flags, it's been wonderful. They've noted how when they come here, and especially since they haven't been here in such a period of time, how surprised and overwhelmed and grateful they are when they come here and see this building, this room. It holds so many memories. It holds so much hope. And we are a community of memory and hope. And it is hope for those times when we can gather again that do sustain us now. But welcome to this service. It's a virtual service, and I'm so glad you're joining us. Welcome.
Our opening hymn this morning is Morning Has Broken. It's number 38 in the gray hymnal.
Like the first morning, blackbird has spoken, like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Sweet vision, bless my eyes, land upon the western skies. Constant stars, I bid you rise. Over Safety Harbor, home, home at last be calmed. Far behind us screams the storm. Tattered canvas waves like arms. Greeting Safety Harbor, where from windows of the tower, where the beacon burns, faithful friends at every hour watch for my return. Yours the calm and peace I claim when I face the waves and rain, when the sea road calls my name. Out from Safety Harbor, through the fearsome foaming gale, Spirit fills my sail, I shall see though sight may fail. Lights of safety harbor, where from windows of the tower bright the beacon burns. Faithful friends at every hour watch for my return. Hearts haven memory sure, call me through the tempest's roar, where the pilgrim sails no more, home to safety harbor, where the pilgrim sails no more, home to safety harbor.
We often recite familiar words without thinking. We've learned them by rote and can easily repeat them whenever we're asked. Today, as we speak our affirmation, I would like you to stop and think about the words that we're saying. What do they ask of you, this congregation, and our community? Let's say our affirmation together now. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. As we light our chalices here in the sanctuary, I invite you to light a candle, a lantern, or a chalice wherever you are. It's okay. You can push pause while you go get one. Lighting our chalices is a symbol of who we are as Unitarian Universalists. They remind us that sharing light and warmth does not diminish the light and warmth that we ourselves receive. It does, in fact, increase the light of knowledge and the warmth of community. It's our tradition at UUCS to light 3 chalices. The first for our congregation, its members and friends. The second for our partner church in Šimanvalva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third is for our children and youth, who will become the keepers of the flame. Please join me in singing the flame into light.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Hello and welcome to the Time for All Ages portion of the service. The story I'm going to tell you today is called Jonathan James and the What If Monster by Michelle Nelson Schmidt. Some what if monsters like to hang out and fill up our heads with worry and doubt. They're sneaky and quiet and quick as a blink. The words that they whisper can change how we think. Jonathan James heard those words full of dread, and all those what-ifs got stuck in his head. What if you tumble? What if there's wind? What if you slip and your knee gets all skinned? What if they giggle? What if it's chilly? What if you jump and you look really silly? What if it's hard? What if you're bad? What if they laugh and it makes you feel sad? What if it's ugly? What if it stinks? What if that is what everyone thinks? What if it's yucky? What if it's icky? What if your mom yells, You're way too picky. What if it's dark? What if it's scary? What if there's something giant and hairy? What if you lose? What if you're last? What if you're too slow and you never get fast? What if she laughs? What if she runs? What if she thinks you're not any fun? Now, wait just a minute. I have something to say after hearing what ifs all through the day. I hear all your worries. I hear all your claims. But what if you're wrong? Asked Jonathan James. What if I climb to the top of that tree and I never slip or skin up a knee? And what if I jump right into the pool and everyone thinks I look really cool? And what if a baseball is nothing but fun and I end up hitting a triple home run? And what if my drawing goes up on the wall and everyone thinks it's the best one of all? And what if I taste some of that food and it puts my mouth in a really good mood? And what if I run in a really big race and I have a great time, no matter what the place? And what if I sleep and have the best dream that monsters are sweeter than they might seem? And what if the chance I take in the end is just how I find a really great new friend? Thanks be, and may all beings be happy. Please do consider joining us for the family service at 9:45 a.m. on Sunday mornings, just before the live service on Zoom, or at our weekly youth group meeting on Thursday at 5 p.m.
Take a moment now to take a deep breath. Breathe through the nostrils slowly. There is a deeper, truer rhythm to our lives, a deeper, truer rhythm when we slow down. Driving through my neighborhood, I slow down. Squirrels jump out in front of the car. Children chasing balls. So I drive slow. Drive slow so I cause no harm. If I drive too fast, if I live too fast, there's no time to notice, no time to react. So I go down the path of life. A deliberate, mindful pace guides me, helps me be aware, helps us be aware of who is struggling along the road of life. How many there are, how grim their conditions, how hard it must be. Why can't we do better? What can I do now? You can be present with those who suffer. You can be present wherever you can, however you can. Simply aware and present. You don't need to do anything except be there with them. Who are you called to be with? Who are you being called to listen to and understand? Who are you called to be with during trying times when pain and grief overwhelm those around you? I invite you to think for a moment, reflect. Where is compassion calling you now? Compassion is our way. And gratitude. Life goes on even during this time when we're separated. Let this be a time for gratitude too, for the simple things and for the great things. Most especially, let's feel our gratitude for one another. We think this day of our oldest member, Joe Bateman. So grateful for all Joe has done over the years. Celebrating her 99th birthday today. And so we send our love and our gratitude to Joe Bateman for all she has done for so many years for our congregation. And we celebrate with Ed Kramer, whose daughter Heather recently married to Chris. And Ed watched on the Zoom, and he smiled, and his heart was full of love and gratitude. And he is very happy for them both. Think now of the gift of other people in your life. Think now of the wonderful people who enrich your life in so many ways. There are so many reasons for us to feel gratitude. In the Islamic tradition, an infidel is one who does not feel gratitude. Let us not be infidels. Let us be faithful. Faithful to the highest values that lead us in our life. And above all, let us be grateful. Grateful for this great gift of life. Amen.
We invite you to share your joys and concerns by logging on to our website. You can see the directions on the slide.
Our pastoral hymn today is There Is More Love Somewhere. It's number 95 in the gray hymnal.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
For years now, my conservative friends have asked me, do you really want to live in a welfare state? And I've thought about it. And I've decided, yes, I do. I want to live in a welfare state. If we define welfare in the original meaning of the word, the condition of being or getting along well, to fare well, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that my well-being and the well-being of everyone else means that we have healthy food, clean water, clean air, proper housing, and affordable, if not totally free, education, and full access to complete health care throughout our lives, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that we take care of the earth, end the destructive practices that are poisoning the planet we are blessed to share, and begin to implement policies and practices that support and sustain the lives of us and for generations to come, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that people and not corporations and corporate profits are the primary concern of our politicians and our national and international policies, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that the rights of all people to live in safety are protected by sensible laws that protect the citizens and children against violence and those who would place personal freedom over the good of all people, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that all people, regardless of their color, spiritual or ethical beliefs, gender, sexual orientation, or political views, are afforded the same rights and privileges as everyone else, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that all people, without exception, are given the right to vote without fear of harm, reprisal, or discrimination, and that money plays no part in whether a person can run for or hold office, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that our justice system does not favor corporations or one part of society over another, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that our prison system is one that is not run by for-profit corporations, that its purpose is restorative, not retributive or punitive, and one that sees the humanity in all people, difficult as that may be at times, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means having an economic system that does not exploit workers and does not perpetuate an oppressive class system, one that ensures that all people have the dignity of work and a fair and livable wage, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that our system of taxation is fair, progressive, and free of loopholes that favor the wealthy and corporations above all others, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. If welfare means that each of us care for the other, that the least among you is cared for and loved as much as everyone else, that racism, sexism, ageism, and all the negative and harmful isms become a thing of the past, that we all support each other in living our lives to the fullest potential, and that we are all faring well, then yes, I want to live in a welfare state. In fact, I want to live in a welfare world.
Thank you, Janet, for helping us rethink that word, welfare. I liked that. And also, thank you, Kit and Laura, for that beautiful rendition and your lovely poem and the lovely recording of the music from Dennis. Lorianne, please convey our thanks to him for that. So during the earliest days of my ministry here, we were in our original home on 19th and Bremen Street. That's where the Society of Friends, the Quakers, now meet. And that was when, not too long after I became the minister in January of 1993, not too long after, Lorraine Stewart joined the congregation, and she didn't wait too long before she started causing trouble. She's like that. Lorraine was troubled by the rising tide of homelessness in our community, which has risen much higher in recent years and may soon spill over into a veritable flood due to the pandemic. So Lorraine was troubled by homelessness, and she was troubling our consciences on this matter too. And she was meeting with a fledgling group of concerned folks from a few faith communities here in Salem, and they wanted to do something, not just talk about it and bemoan the problem of homelessness. As a result of these prolonged preliminary conversations, a new organization was envisioned. I remember being at a meeting where Gail McDougall, the minister at the First Congregational Church we were meeting, we'd been talking for a long time, and we weren't sure that we had it perfectly, and she said, let's just do it. Let's just launch it, and then we'll figure it out along the way. And that's what we did. And this was how the Salem Interfaith Hospitality Network was born. The idea, and you're probably pretty familiar with it, is that member congregations who could accommodate them would take turns providing shelter for some families in our community without housing until they could get on their feet. And this organization would help them do that, Salem Interfaith Hospitality Network. We knew that we couldn't participate as a host congregation at the time. We wanted to be a support congregation. We just didn't have enough space in our small home over on 19th and Bremen. And we knew that it was probably going to be several years before we could buy or build a new home for ourselves for Unitarian Universalists here in Salem. But then we surprised ourselves with our commitment and our generosity, and we raised enough to build a new home here. Wow, that was fun. It was. And now we had space to be a host congregation for families in need. We could do it after all, but would we do it? Should we do it? None of us individually, not the board chair or the minister or any single person, was empowered to make such an important decision as to whether or not we should participate in this program, because it was a significant commitment. And so we do what we always do when we have a big decision to make. We called a congregational meeting. I believe it was the first one we held in our new home here. It was in the spring 1998, I believe. And so we had this meeting. Some expressed concerns about the impact of hosting homeless families several times a year. Talked about the impact it would have on the building, how it would be a strain on the volunteers too, perhaps. And others spoke and said that, well, we have a moral obligation to do this. We need to serve homeless families in our community. And so it was debated and discussed, and then we voted. And we voted to become a host congregation. It was our first vote here in this building. Those who did not prevail very gracefully accepted the results because they respected the democratic process which lies at the core of our tradition. And so that's how we became one of the original host congregations for the organization that used to be called Salem Interfaith Hospitality Network, and now it's called Family Promise. And since that time, thanks to incredible volunteer participation, especially by the coordinators of this program, and Lorraine was the first coordinator, for well over 20 years, we have provided shelter and food and compassionate connection and support for dozens and dozens of families in our community who were on their way to finding safe and secure shelter on a more permanent basis. Oftentimes on Sunday mornings, I'm trying to recruit volunteers for this program, and I'll begin by saying, how many of you here have volunteered for Salem Interfaith Hospitality? And practically every hand goes up. It's always so touching to see how many people participate in this program. There's just no way that you could calculate how much good we and the other host congregations and Family Promise have done over the years. There's no way that we could even begin to grasp the help that we have been for so many people. But also, this has been an incredible blessing for us, for our community, because it's good to be of use, to do meaningful things for the common good. I don't think it would have ever happened that we would have been involved in this program if Lorraine hadn't been such a troublemaker. And when I say troublemaker, I'm speaking of good trouble. The kind that lifts people out of complacency and indifference, the kind of trouble that troubles our conscience, makes us aware that accepting the status quo is a cruel, hard blow for those on the outside in the rain and the cold, living under tarps or sleeping in cars or hidden away somewhere. As you may know, the rise of homelessness in our region of the country has grown alarmingly as rents have pushed more and more out the door and into the cold. How often I see rain tarps covering tents and sleeping bags of people forced to live where no one should be forced to live, next to noisy freeways and other desolate places. And when I drive around, I see new ones all the time. It just seems like they're expanding, and it feels so terrible to see that. The message that our society is sending to the homeless is clear. It's called the homeless problem. The homeless problem. The message we're sending to the homeless is clear. You don't have the right to exist, and we wish you didn't. Does that sound too blunt? Where, then, is a homeless person allowed to shelter, to rest, to clean, and care for their bodies? There isn't any place. In the Bible, Jesus laments, "The foxes have holes, the birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Which is to say, think about it, Jesus was a homeless person. And the homeless in our community are someone's daughters and sons who have nowhere to lay their heads. And in our religious tradition, we're called to recognize their inherent worth and dignity. And it's especially important to do this when their worth and dignity is routinely ignored. In fact, everyone does have the right to exist, and everyone should have the right to shelter. You know, some countries, probably welfare state countries, Janet, but I like them. Some countries expressly acknowledge that housing, shelter, is a right. It's a right. It's even recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the right to have safe and secure shelter. And we know we could do it if we put our hearts to it, if we put our minds to it, we could make it in, but as a nation, it's not a top priority, so we don't do it. In the years since we first voted to become a host congregation, we have added a fellowship hall, we've expanded the foyer, we've acquired property across the street to the north. It's our overflow parking lot. And a portion of that property serves us very well on Sunday mornings when we're meeting here as an overflow parking lot. But there's a part of that property over to the far east. There's a ditch, and then you cross that, and there's a pretty good space of land. And I've always envisioned that we would have some other use for this property. But nothing ever seemed to come up that was fitting. And then 3 years ago, another group of troublemakers here, who, for a variety of personal, moral, and spiritual reasons, they were deeply troubled by the inhumanity of homeless in our midst, they started stirring things up. And they came up with a vision for this piece of property and called it, and went through a little bit of an evolution. It eventually came to be called Habitat and Hope Village. And the organizers began sharing this vision for this piece of property with others. They began meeting we began meeting to consider whether some sort of transitional housing units could be constructed on our property. And we learned after inspections and soil testings that site over there is suitable for construction. During these 3 years, I don't know how many meetings the Habitat and Hope Village Board has had. I've gone to a few of them, but not that many. They've had so many. I don't know how many community connections they've made. I've been at some meetings down at the county courthouse buildings downtown where they're meeting with other groups trying to address the problem of homelessness. They've been out there networking with the community. I don't know how many times they've done that or how many other things they've done to further their work. Suffice it to say, they've worked hard, diligently, with firm but gentle persistence. And at different times, they've appeared before the boards to discuss the project, answer our questions, and address whatever concerns got to be raised. And during our discussions, we've realized this is not a decision that the minister is going to make or the board is going to make. We can simply put it to the congregation because you are the ones who should be entrusted with making this decision. As for me, as a member of this congregation, I'm a minister here, but I'm also a member. I've signed the membership book, so I do get to vote at the congregational meetings. I'd like to tell you why I will vote in favor of this proposal at our congregational meeting a week from today at 12 noon on February the 7th. Today, I've also invited Christine Ertl, our board chair, to speak on behalf of the board. We may or may not disagree on particular proposals. I don't really know, quite frankly, because we talk and we dialogue and a lot of things happen. I don't know about that, but I do know that we agree in love, and we agree that it is spiritually incumbent upon us to help alleviate the inhumane condition of widespread homelessness in our community. And we both agree that even as we will each share differing views, we can and we must entrust the congregation with this decision. In congregations, decisions inevitably must be made, of course, and inevitably there will be disagreement. And if you ever find yourself in some place where there is no disagreement, run like hell, because you've landed in a cult or some other place where freedom of dissent is not allowed. Dissent I welcome it. It's essential for our democratic processes. It helps us think things through. It's essential for our spiritual well-being, because that way everybody feels as though I really do have the right to share my views. That's important. I just want to note here, parenthetically, that Christine has been serving us so well. I just want to thank her publicly for being the board chair. She doesn't want the thanks, but she served us so ably and so well in a very demanding role, especially being the board chair during the pandemic. A little bit of an extra challenge. And I always welcome Christine's opinions. I'm always informed by them. And she's speaking on behalf of the board too, so keep that in mind. As soon as I heard about Habitat in Hope Village nearly 3 years ago, I was in complete support, because my heart instantly told me that we're called to do this. It would be such a blessing to so many people in more ways than we can imagine. My heart tells me that this program will work, and my head tells me it's not unrealistic to think that Habitat in Hope Village can make this work. And I would love to see us try. One primary concern raised by those who currently are concerned about the viability of this program is that we would be too far away from the various services that the women, this is a Habitat in Hope Village is envisioned as it's a transitional housing opportunity for women moving out of homelessness and hopefully into a better situation. But the concern is it will be too far away from the women. I mean, we are out on the east edge of town, and the women would need to have access to services downtown, so this would be a concern. It was more of a concern for me before the pandemic, and now during the pandemic, we've learned how to connect technologically with Zoom. We have Zoom meetings all the time. Our world has shrunk. Technology has shrunk, even again, the distance between us in new ways. And I'm sure that were they to build a Habitat in Hope Village, it would have computer and Wi-Fi, and that the women would have access to services remotely. And that's done quite commonly now. So I think that takes a little bit of the concern away about that, at least for me it does. And then too, if Habitat in Hope Village was built across the street, they might be remote from downtown, but they wouldn't be remote from us. We'd be right across the street. And I could imagine all sorts of wonderful relationships being born over the years, all sorts of ways our lives could intertwine and we could help one another. Let me note here in passing, lest there be confusion, that the Habitat in Hope Village is not a program of our congregation. It's members of our congregation who have a nonprofit legal status. It's called Habitat in Hope Village Incorporated, and it is they, not UUCS, which will be responsible for overseeing this program. Yet they are an affiliate ministry of ours, so we will have a connection with them. Next Sunday, we're going to be voting on whether or not to lease our property to them. And I have other arguments that I could make regarding other concerns, but I think I'll hold off on that and let us have a good discussion at our congregational meeting next Sunday. And if I see that some of the arguments I wanted to make are not being made by others, I might chime in, but I don't want to dominate the discussion. As it is now, we have a large empty space across the street, and some of it's going to be filled again when we use it for an overflow parking lot, but still there's going to be a lot of empty space over there, and it's just sitting there. And it's become a fairly regular part of my duties to go over there and establish some initial pastoral contact with various homeless people who end up there. It's a pretty steady stream. And I am kind to them, and I listen to their stories as much as they care to share. And I ask how we can be of help while they prepare to move on, because I tell them, you will have to move on. Stay here for a little while, but you're going to have to move on. It's a difficult thing negotiating that, because really I'm supposed to tell them to move on immediately, but we can't do that. it's too cruel, so we try to soften the blow a little bit. But we often do have to tell people to move on. We never treat people with cruelty or contempt, and we offer help to them, what we can, but then they must move on. But that empty space is ours, and I'm wondering, what should we do with it? And I like this proposal before us, this Hope and Habitat Village, and even if they built it and it didn't prove to be viable, I think that it would be a really good thing for us to have a structure over there. It could be a valuable asset that could be modified to meet other needs. I think it's going to be successful, though, so that's just a back burner idea. As for now, over there on the property, we talk about this at our staff meetings. Well, let's put up more chains. Let's put up bigger no trespassing signs so that we can keep the homeless people away. But this isn't really a good solution because we're aware of them and our hearts are open to them, trying to do something about this. And so just putting up more trespassing signs over there somehow doesn't feel right to me. So I'm really grateful to the founding members of Habitat and Hope Village, because you have your eyes open and you're good troublemakers, like the late civil rights icon John Lewis called good troublemakers. If you're making good trouble, that's a good thing. And the Habitat and Hope Village board you are really pushing us to consider what we as a congregation are called to do about this growing crisis. Your dedication and your strong and gentle persistence humbles and inspires me, and I will vote yes on your proposal on February the 7th. Even as we are called to discern our congregational role in the midst of this humanitarian crisis, so are we individually called to discern our roles from day to day. How should I relate to the folks without shelter I encounter on the street or see at the intersections? When I see a person in homeless straits, how should I regard them? I remember that this precious person is someone's child. So let us hold all who are without shelter in our hearts. Let us give them shelter as we can, with our kindness, with our smiles, with our helping hands. And when I lay my head upon the pillow in my warm home tonight, when I lay my head on my pillow in my warm home tonight, I will feel so grateful. But also my soul will be troubled, knowing how many lack this comfort. My soul is troubled, as well it should be. Christine, would you come share your thoughts, and then I'll do a meditation.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that Rick invited me to come and be in the pulpit today to talk about this vote that we're having next Sunday. The board has been working on this for as long as I've been on the board, and so it's coming to fruition now. I want to clarify I want to be very clear that I'm here today to speak for the board, who are the stewards of our congregation. The board has liability and fiduciary responsibilities to administer the finances and the property, or the physical property of our congregation. And I'm also here to speak for our congregation, members who have contacted the board with their ideas and considerations. It's our congregation who has the responsibility to be informed for their vote that's coming up on Sunday. We've tried really hard to get information in front of our congregation about this, about the vote, and we should have all received a packet on the voting material. It includes information from Habitat and Hope Village. It includes information from the congregation. So today is another opportunity we have for the congregation to be informed about this. So I'm speaking about what must be considered for this vote that will allow our congregation to to enter into a land use agreement with Habitat and Hope Village. That's what the vote will be. Will we lease them this property? And the lease negotiation will happen between the board and HHV, Habitat and Hope. We've gotten advice for the considerations that I'm going to present today from a land use attorney that the congregation is working with to help write this land use agreement. We've had research brought to us on the best practice for impacting the needs of our unsheltered neighbors, and we've had queries from our congregants that they've asked us to address. I'm only speaking about these considerations today. There are many in our congregation who support this project. Reverend Rick supports it, and there are others. I want to be clear that our board is absolutely divided on whether we should enter into this land use agreement. They're absolutely divided, but they're absolutely united in the concept of actively supporting an effort to reduce homelessness. We've just reached no firm conclusion on whether leasing the property on the north lot is the best way to do this. So I'm going to address the best practices that have come to the board, the information we have on how to best alleviate homelessness in our community. In 2019, an Oregon statewide shelter study was brought by the state of Oregon, and they identified Salem specifically in their report, which was sort of unusual because we have a lot of communities in Oregon that have homeless needs, but they identified Salem specifically because of our high number of homelessness. And that shelter study recommended that Salem must first focus on navigation and emergency shelter for this population, not transitional housing. That's the highest need. We've also had information on best practices that says that homeless shelters must have access to resources essential for a successful housing program. Resources, like Rick said, to participate in community meetings, resources to get to medical appointments, resources to get to grocery stores. Residents must have easy access to these resources for the program to be successful. And the third best practice for a successful program is necessary community support, necessary buy-in by all the players in the community that could possibly be part of this, from Arches to the city to other nonprofits. Another best practice that we want everyone to consider is that any nonprofit agency must have stable and reliable funding. The 3-year business plan that Habitat and Hope Village submitted to our board last June identified that their funding relies solely on soft money grants and individual fundraising, which we all know is not as stable as we would like it to be. But in order for it to be a viable, consistent program, it has to have stable funding. Another issue that's been, I feel like I'm just rattling off all the concerns, but we must pay attention to, we must consider this to make an informed vote. The board itself specifically is concerned about liability for our congregation and for the board. As owners of the land under the farmhouse, UUCS could be held liable for injury or accident at the farmhouse or any untoward behavior that happens at the farmhouse. It is our land, whether it's leased or not. We know in terms of running the program that will be housed in the transitional program that Habitat and Hope Village, they have the members of their board have just a wealth of experience working in real estate, building homes, working on projects for sustainable housing for low-income folks around the state. But they have been very honest that they have no experience running a social service program, a homeless project, or a self-governing project. They've stated on their website that this project will be self-governed by the residents, and they've acknowledged that they don't have any experience in doing that. They do have the support of Arches. I think we are all familiar with Arches. They're the agency in town that's charged with coming up with solutions for our homeless population. And Arches has made a commitment to provide a level of case management to the project, but they have no staff that can be made available on a permanent basis for helping run on-site. We need to consider in this vote if this project on our north lot is the best use of our congregation's limited resources. What we know from information we've gotten from Arches is that there are, at any given point in time, about 1,800 homeless people in Salem. And about 45% of those homeless people are women. So we have about 800 homeless women on the streets of Salem. Of those 800 women, about 50 of them would fall into the criteria that would make them eligible to live in the Habitat and Hope Village house. The criteria is very specific. These are newly homeless women. They don't have the issues of concern that ongoing homeless folks might have. They might be employed. They are much more stable than folks who are, for example, living consistently under the Market Street Bridge. But they serve 5 women at any given time. Those 5 people, women, can increase over the course of a year, 20 years. We'll certainly be serving more than 5 women, but it's a drop in the bucket of those 800 women on the streets. And we have been asked to think about how there are many existing excellent programs up and running in Salem that already serve those women who are experiencing homelessness and others who experience homelessness. There are programs for families that we help house. There are programs for women and children. There are programs for homeless folks suffering with drug addictions. There are a myriad of programs in Salem. And they're sited in downtown Salem and have a track record of success with their clients, and they're run by skilled and caring staff. We, as owners, if I'm moving into another subject about the building across the lot, if in fact HHV cures homelessness in our community and they no longer need that building to house women in transition, or if they lose their funding, then our land use agreement would return ownership of the building to our congregation. And there are those who believe that that's an asset. Rick has said that he thinks that's an asset. It can be an asset. The board has to consider whether the congregation can maintain another physical structure that belongs to us, and a septic field and a well that would need to be maintained. The building, of course, will require us to pay insurance and other maintenance bills, and they'll draw on our facilities team to help maintain that building. We could set aside that responsibility or incorporate some of the financial burden of that responsibility if we rent the building. And we've talked about that. HHV has said they would reconfigure the building to be a family home, like a 2-bedroom home or whatever. We decide the congregation would have a say in how they're going to reconfigure that building. So if we rented it, we would incorporate even other financial burdens. We'd pay taxes on the land and on the building. We'd pay insurance on the house and, of course, liability insurance. We know that Marion County won't let us subdivide that lot, so we can't sell the house if it becomes ours. We can't sell the house on that portion of the lot. It's zoned in a way that we can't do that. There is some talk that the urban growth boundary might extend and we might be able to subdivide that lot, but as it sits right now, we can't. And so we wouldn't be able to sell it. So those are just a short laundry list of the things that I've been asked to address to you all to consider for our vote on Sunday, February 7th. It feels like I'm just raining on the parade of supporting a viable service for the homeless population in our community. But I know And I hope, I know, that with the information that I've presented, the information that has been sent to all of our voting congregants in a recent packet, the information that we've emailed to everyone, the information that's on the website, that we will make an informed vote on Sunday. We will have a thorough discussion at that meeting, and we will be informed about how to make a wise decision about how we want to live our principle of supporting the inherent worth and dignity of everyone, and how to best support our unsheltered neighbors. So thank you for the time to go over this with you. I appreciate it.
Christine, you are not raining on a parade. You are doing your job, and you're doing it well. You're raising the issues we need to consider so that we can have an informed vote. So thank you. Thank you for raising those issues. Would you please join me during a time for reflection, meditation, and prayer? Let us be grateful for one another. Let us be grateful for the many voices we hear. Let us be grateful for our democracy, where we can disagree and still love one another. Let us be grateful for those who dare to speak their truth, that we might discover our truth. Let us be grateful for this community, always striving to address the needs of our world. And let us be trusting of the processes at work. Offer our views and trust in the results, whatever they may be. For this is our way. This is how we form community. This is how we stay in community. Bless us all as we continue this journey together. Amen.
At UUCS, we share our blessings through the works of our many teams, groups, and ministries, and through our Share the Plate program. This is the 5th Sunday of the month, and so we are sharing the plate with our religious education program, which serves all ages with a variety of classes and experiences which encourage exploring our spiritual growth. Your contributions make a huge difference and are greatly appreciated. To donate, please log on to our website and follow the prompts, or you can mail your check to UUCS. Thank you so much. Reverend Rick will light our social justice lantern to symbolize the carrying of light in each of us out into the world. As we extinguish our chalices, please carry their light and warmth with you throughout the hours and days and weeks ahead.
I'm failing at extinguishing the chalices. I'll go back and do that correctly in just a second. However, I did want to remind you that we have a Zoom fellowship gathering at 12 noon following the service today, so that should give you a chance to connect with some people and maybe meet some new people. I hope you do take advantage of that. Also, please be aware of the announcements that we have a congregational meeting next Sunday. You knew about that. We've been making an announcement about that all morning. Next Sunday at 12 noon afterwards. Also, there's a interest survey for building ground. If you'll go on the website and notice that, it's about how we can create a welcoming environment, a good class for people entering into our community, and it would help them if you would fill that out, the interest survey. Now, have you made a prayer flag yet? I made a prayer flag, and a lot of people are making prayer flags. Laura, let's see, Ben Cavaletto and Lily and Reed were in yesterday, and they said, we were here yesterday to make our prayer flags. It was so nice to be back in the space. Sarah Roars also, Sarah Roars and Joseph, her husband, came in, and they made a prayer flag. They were grateful to be here. And we have one more week left. You can still sign up to make a prayer flag through February the 6th. These are prayer flags for our hopes and dreams for this coming year. We'd love to see this room, and we'll be putting them all on display in a couple of weeks. So you still have time to come in and make a prayer flag, and I hope you will. I think that's all the announcements I need to make this morning, so thank you.
Our closing hymn today is To Mercy, Pity, Peace, and Love. It's number 93 in the gray hymnal.
To mercy, pity, peace, and love, all pray in the peace the human dress. Then everyone of every clime that prays in deep distress, praise to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, peace, love, mercy, pity, peace.
Please join your hearts with all our members and friends as we say our closing words. May faith in the Spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.